I don't believe I was put on this earth just to live and then die. I don't think anyone is put on this earth for that. I think we all have a purpose. And for me, my purpose is to help people make a difference in their own lives. That's what drives me forward, you know, but you have to be intentional, because I meet so many people who, oh, well, I quite like this and I quite like that, but I don't like this and don't like that. And I said, but the thing is, you know, unless you are intentional, you will never find your purpose.
Amos Madra.
Hello and a very warm welcome. I am joined by Gail Page, communications and mindset coach. Gail's such an important, such a wonderful and valued guest that I had to bring her back on again. Gail, thank you so much for joining us. It's 2 years on.
I
How
know.
time flies, but here we are from the midst of that pandemic, when we didn't know what was going on, we didn't know what to expect the following day. I mean, whether you're in the southern hemisphere as you are or in the northern hemisphere. So it's great to catch up with you. And what's happened?
Yeah, it's good to
Thank
see you
you.
again, Amos.
And what's happened since we last caught up? How have you been?
I've been fabulous, but then I'm fabulous every day because that's how I choose to be.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's been a funny old time the last couple of years. Oh, you've got an extra guest just walked in. Yeah, I think it's been such a massive learning curve for everyone, myself included. And I think it's very, very easy for people to get stuck in the, oh my God, I wish things went back to normal. Well, what does normal even mean? You know, I don't believe in normal. I believe in what is, and living each day with what is. And we can either let it suck the life out of us or propel us forward. And that's how I've chosen to see it.
Absolutely. And it's a great way to, see life, because that way you embrace whatever circumstances you find yourself in. And, you'll always find the answers within to deal with that particular day. At the time it was very, just not something that we were used to. In our generation, we had never gone through anything like that. It was a strange time. It was a scary time. Sadly, many lives were lost. But we seem to be coming through it. And through that pain and experience, I think we were able to grow through that. Would you
100%.
agree?
100%, yeah. And I think it's, older generations had their resilience developed because it had to, for them to survive. And as time has gone on, we're presented with less and less circumstances that push our resilience and push us to dig deep. And, I have met some wonderful people who never thought they could achieve half of what they've achieved. But going through the pandemic meant they dug deep. And what they found was a surprise. They had so much potential within them that they would never have found if the pandemic hadn't happened. So for a lot of people, it's been a massive, massive growth curve.
Absolutely. A time of reflection, a time to think about, what it is, that life means to the individual, and, what are we doing with our lives? Which leads me nicely to the next question, which is, what does purpose mean to you, and how can we discover our purpose?
Well, I think it's different for everyone, Amos. To me, living my purpose, I don't believe I was put on this earth just to live and then die. I don't think anyone is put on this earth for that. I think we all have a purpose. And for me, my purpose is to help people make a difference in their own lives. That's what drives me forward, but you have to be intentional, because I meet so many people who, oh, well, I quite like this and I quite like that, but I don't like this and don't like that. And I said, well, the thing is, you know, unless you are intentional, you will never find your purpose. You have to think about things that light you up, that you would do even if you didn't get paid for it. And that's what my life is like. Mind you, don't tell anybody that, because, you know, I quite like getting paid. But I'm really interested, because I found my purpose 24 years ago. But I'm really interested, Amos. I'm going to turn the tables on you a little bit here.
It's the Gail Page show, so you're questioning me now.
How do you find
Yeah,
your purpose, Amos?
yeah. I mean, I think, you know, you hit the nail on the head. You know, it's finding that thing that you have a passion for, that you want to do, and you find yourself drawn onto it, and it's that pull rather than pushing towards something else in life. You know, you and I have been through experiences where we've had different careers in the past, and that was more of a push, just trying to get through the day. Whereas now we have a pull in our lives. We are drawn onto the things that we're called to do, our purposes. And as you said, it takes intention, reflection, thinking about where my gifts are, what is it that I enjoy to do, and how do I serve people, and how can I give to people. And for me,
Mhm.
certainly doing this is the way I found my purpose. It's something that I thoroughly enjoy. I feel fulfilled by doing it. It gives me great pleasure, and I know that I help people by doing this.
Mm. Yeah, I remember our first conversation, and you were trying to decide.
Navigate. Yeah.
That's right, not just decide, you were trying to navigate.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
that was
it,
quite a
yeah,
challenge.
it was a time of transition, because there was so much that was, you know, obviously with the pandemic, you know, you're in full-time employment, you're doing, you know, you just in that same thing that you're doing. Not that, you know, you know, don't want to send any disparaging remarks in terms of former employers, but you know, it was just a time for me to transition to a new stage of life. And
Mm,
you know, as I say, life doesn't happen to you; it happens for you. It's just having the awareness of understanding what it is that's going on around us, and then just stepping into 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 the rhythm of life and into what it is that we're supposed to
yeah.
be doing. As you said, you know, you're not supposed to just, you're not born and then you die. You know, you live, you make a mark. You know, your life is about how we can touch one another and
Mm.
impact
And
the
make a
next generation.
difference.
Yeah, and make a
You know,
difference.
if we were all intentional about making a difference, can you imagine the impact that would have on our world?
Absolutely.
It would be incredible. Every single human being living on purpose, living intentionally, and trying to make a difference. That gives me goosebumps just thinking about it.
Absolutely. And I think it is very noble when you think of it in that way. What would you say, you know, someone listening to this saying, you know, it's great that you're saying that, but I've got to, you know, pay the bills, I've got to put food on the table, the cost of living.
Mhm.
It's not as straightforward. I can't just walk away from my job. It, you know, pays the mortgage.
100% agree. Yeah, I
How
get
do
it.
I make that transition?
Well, my first question to somebody would be, what is it that you're tolerating? And why are you tolerating it? What difference would it make if instead of tolerating, you decided that you would change the way that you look at things? You know, people will say to me, oh, it's okay for you. You know, you're a coach, you're a trainer, you get paid well, etc., etc. Hey, do you know, 26 years ago, I was on incapacity benefit. I was living on something like £5,000 a year. £5,000 a month. So it wasn't all a bed of roses. But I decided I was going to stop tolerating, and I was going to live with intention. And I was going to change what I could change, which was my mindset. Because as you said, you know, things that happen out there, it's how we view them and how we decide to live with it or change it. If we decide we're going to tolerate it and we're going to live with it, then that's fine. And people say, oh, yeah, I don't have any choice. Yes, you do. Doing nothing is still a choice. But doing something's an even better choice.
Absolutely.
100%.
Absolutely. And again, obviously, you know, as you said, there's the toleration and doing nothing is a choice. Sometimes people might think that we're burying our heads in the sand, but you're not. You're taking a risk. You know, you are following that dream that's within you. And as you said, if more people did that on purpose, you know, what an incredible world would we live in. I mean, it is an incredible world anyway, but yeah, you can imagine.
It can be even more incredible. And, you know, even if it's about, you know, I meet so many people who it would be very easy for them to go down the rabbit hole. And, you know, I say to them, if you choose to go down the rabbit hole, these are the kind of things that could happen. If you choose to stay out and make one tiny adjustment every single day until that tiny adjustment becomes a habit and will create new habits, your whole energy will change because you are making it happen. You're not looking outside for someone to come and give you a magic wand that will change your world, because you could have all the money on this planet and you could still be unhappy. Because happiness, joy, everything starts from within. Everything.
Wow. Wow. Incredible. I mean, that there's just giving me goosebumps when I think about what you said there. You know, and it's the small steps, you know, by the inch it's a cinch, but it's just that small incremental growth every day and making it habitual. Because when we take these huge steps, it's such a big transformation that we cannot sustain it. But by doing the bare minimal, it makes it easier to maintain, and therefore it can turn into a habit. Never thought of it that way.
I think the thing is, though, Amos, that people think that, you know, they talk about setting goals and having a strategy to get you there, and which is great. You know, don't get me wrong, I'm a great believer in setting our goals. We have to set our intentions, but you also have to take action. If you, as you've just said, set the goal so high that it feels totally unachievable, you won't even get off the starting blocks. But we have to set different types of goals. We have to set goals that scare the bejesus out of us, but we get that flutter of excitement as well. We have to set incremental goals, as you mentioned, and celebrate every time we achieve the tiniest goal. Because it's in celebrating those small ones that will keep getting us moving forward to the big ones. And all of a sudden, that goal that scared the bejesus out of us, all of a sudden we've reached it, and then we're reaching for another and another and another. And it's like, I always think if you start children off early, start them off and say, you know, if you woke up tomorrow and everything in your life was perfect, you had everything you wanted, what would it be like? Because when we get children to tune into their imagination and just let it run riot, and instead of saying, oh, well, you know, that'll never happen, we haven't got enough money, or, you know, we're not clever enough, or live in the wrong area, we do that, we squash our children's potential. But if we just say to them, what would it be like? Describe it to me. What would you be hearing? What would you be seeing? What would you be feeling? Will you give that to a child early enough? Imagine the adults they're going to turn into. They're open to so many possibilities because they know that they can make it happen if they just let their imagination run wild.
Incredible, incredible. And it almost sounds like an oxymoron, because what you're saying basically is to maximize potential, we have to take the minutest of steps. Am I right?
I think you also need people around you, though, who are supporters of you. Because if you are on your own and you only have you to rely on, it depends on the kind of upbringing you've had, the kind of narrative that you've been fed growing up. You know, if you've got someone who's been belittled all their lives, it's really hard for them to believe that potential is something that could even exist within them. So surrounding ourselves with people who are our cheerleaders, who are there to support us and will keep pushing us and keep pulling us and telling us, do you know something, you did that really well. It's like a parent who tells a child who got 17 out of 20 in an exam, yeah, but what happened to the other 3? I mean, come on. That child will always be striving, never feeling good enough. But if their parents are saying, wow, how did you manage to get 17? That is so cool. I wonder what we would need to do to go even one further. And then that excites the child. And it's exactly the same in the workplace. You know, regardless of how you feel about things, we've all got inner child. Well, we've all got inner children. You know, we've got a 4-year-old who gets scared, who wants to be seen, to be heard. You've got a 13-year-old who get a bit stroppy when things don't go their way. So it's exactly the same in the workplace. If you've got a leader who looks at what you're doing, what you're achieving, and even if you've messed up, says to you, okay, so that didn't turn out the way you expected. Let's look at it with different eyes. What would you do differently if you were faced with that situation again to get a different outcome? Now, if you've got that kind of approach as a leader, people will grow. They will want to achieve more. And they will grow way beyond what they think is their potential. Because someone is actually saying to them, yeah, I know you messed up because you just told me. It's all a learning curve.
Absolutely. So the environment has to be conducive to growth.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, not everybody has a loving family around them. Would, obviously, what you listen to, what you watch, the information you take in, the books that you read, how much social media you take, talk to us about that, controlling those other elements. And, you can't always reach a Bob Proctor, but maybe you could watch a video,
Exactly, that's it. There's so many free podcasts, things on YouTube, books, libraries are full of them. And anybody who says to me, oh, I can't, that sounds to me as if actually I think you won't. Because you could if you wanted to. But you have to want to. And sometimes people have been belittled so much on their journey through life, they don't see the point. And that's why we need podcasts, we need webinars, we need people like you and I talking to other people and saying, hey, do you know something? There is so much out there. Ignore what you've been told.
At the time when you, sorry, yeah,
No, I was just saying, people rely on other people's opinions.
absolutely,
All it is an opinion. It's not the truth.
absolutely,
It's not
absolutely.
my truth. It's not your truth. It's just an opinion. And you do not have to live by other people's opinions, especially for
Absolutely.
negative ones.
That's it. You just don't give energy to it. You just, you take your thoughts to other things, go to your
That's right.
happy place. Um, at the time when you were going through that transition, walking away from Scotland, moving to New Zealand, taking a risk and going through that change, talk to us about the level of discipline to believe in that dream that you had, because I'm sure there were days where you thought to yourself, what am I doing? Was this the right decision to make? But
Do you
you
know,
got
I've
through it.
never once questioned my decision, Amos. It was the weirdest thing. We had friends who'd come to New Zealand on holiday, and when they came back, it was, oh my God, you would love it. And when my partner and I had bought our house, I said, right, it wasn't exactly what we wanted. So 2 years, do it up, flip it. Anyway, 4.5 years later, we're still there. And one night over a glass of wine, I said, I'm done, we're moving. And my partner went, we are? Uh-huh, I'm done. And we got chatting and we were looking at perhaps we'll move county. And then I mentioned about Jill and Colin saying about, New Zealand and that. So next thing you knew, we took a bottle of wine upstairs with us. We switched on the computer. We checked out New Zealand. We did our due diligence. We checked out house prices, jobs, you name it. And 2.5 hours later, we'd filled the paperwork in and we went, my partner looked at me and said, are you sure you want to do this? And I went, hey, if it's meant, it'll happen. And if it's not, it won't. And every single day, we said, I love living in New Zealand. I got a map of New Zealand and we had seen Billy Connolly's World Tour in New Zealand. And he was driving on his trike along Marine Parade in Napier. And I just went, oh my God, I so want to live there. So I got a photo of us. I stuck it on Napier. I got a change of address cards, put our old address as our existing address, our new address is New Zealand, Napier, New Zealand. Somebody gave us a New Zealand flag. We slept with that on our bed every night. I got a change of address cards, as I say. And every day I said, I so love living in New Zealand. And 4.5 months later, we arrived in New Zealand, sold everything. My partner had a job, good to go.
Incredible. So you got yourself into a state, you took the corresponding action,
100%.
and you just believed it, and it manifested itself.
I was so focused on making it happen, so focused. So was my partner. And everybody that we said to about emigrating to New Zealand, they went, oh, yeah, but what if you don't like it? But what if we do? We have every intentions of loving every second of it. If we decide after we've been there a while that it's not for us, we will have had an absolutely wonderful adventure and we'll do something else. Failure was never an option. Never.
Had you known a lot of these life principles before then, or were you learning as you were making these decisions?
I knew a few. I'd been coaching for about five years. But you know yourself, Amos, we learn something new every day. Every day. And I certainly didn't know as much as I do now. So it's coming up 17 years we've been in New Zealand. And it's been an amazing adventure every step of the way. Every step of the way. But it's about being intentional. And We envisaged being here with every single sense we had. I knew what it felt like to step off that plane because I had been there. I knew what it would look like. I had looked at just about everything I could find on New Zealand. And we can live unintentionally, but is that living? I think it's more existing. Or we can be intentional and say, this is what I want to have happen. This is how I will make it happen. This is how I will feel when I get there. This is what I will see. You know, using all of our senses. When I'm working with my clients and they're talking about, you know, you talk about BHAG's big, hairy, audacious goals. And they're talking about, I say, so tell me what goal would make it really scary. And they go, oh, nah, that would never happen. And they'll tell me, what would make it even scarier? And they go, what do you mean? You're not supposed to be making me feel comfortable about doing it. Nah, nah, nah. What would make it really, really scary? Because they get a goal in their mind that feels a wee bit scary, and then that's them. They won't even think any further. But my role as their coach is to get them to think about making it even bigger, making it even scarier. Because when you open up your thinking like that, your original goal all of a sudden becomes easy.
Yeah.
And it becomes fun.
Incredible. And these principles, we can apply this to pretty much every aspect of life, family, work, everything.
100%. You know, it's like when you hear people complaining about their relationships, and whether it's with a significant other, whether it's with their children, whether it's with their peers or their manager. My first question to anyone who tells me that their relationship sucks, my first question to them is, and what part do you think that you might inadvertently be playing in it? To which I usually get, what do you mean? What do you mean? It's not me, it's my partner, or it's my boss, or it's my colleague. And every relationship that we are part of, we contribute to. So what part do you think that you may inadvertently be playing in this? Because unless we can take ownership of our part, we can't change the relationship, because you can't change your partner, you can't change your boss. Well, you can, but not straight away unless you walk away. We have to look at our part in the relationships and change our contribution. Now, I'll give you an example, something really simple. Supposing you are going out with the lads for a night out, and you say to your partner, I'm going to be back at 9 o'clock. You know, it's after work, so it's an after work springs. I'll be back by 9. And you rock up at 11:30. And your partner's not exactly happy that you're 2.5 hours later than you said you were going to be there. The partner, more often than not, will just go, wow. Or they'll have left the house, or they'll have gone to bed, and you get total silence. And then when you do talk about it, it's, where the hell were you last night? You said you'd be back at this time, yada, yada, yada. Whereas, if instead of doing that, they turned around and said, hey, do you know something? I was really worried last night, because when I didn't see you walk in the door at 9 o'clock and time was going on, I was really worried because I thought something had happened. If you're going to be late in future, just text me just to let me know. That would have a completely different outcome. In exactly the same way at work. If something happens and somebody goes silent or they blow up, there's no positive outcome to that. Nobody's actually saying what's really going on for them. But when we can learn to speak our truth, that's when things change. Not you're doing it all wrong. This is how I think I'm contributing to this, and what can I do to change my relationship with people in the workplace, with partners, significant others, with children. That's when change will happen, not trying to get them to do anything different.
Wow. Wow. So it's incredible. I mean, it sounds so simple, but the effectiveness of it and changing it from the other to yourself and seeing how you can deal with it. Gail, this has been just such an incredible interview. I wish I could speak to you so much longer. There's so much I could just take and just listen to. It's been an absolute joy talking to you. What can we expect in the near future, and how can the audience connect with you?
I'm in the process of putting together a program, and it'll be online. And its working title is Find Your Voice, Speak Your Truth, and Step into Your Power. And I will let you know more about that when I'm near launch. People can get in contact with me by emailing me, gail@positivepathways.co.nz. My website is positivepathways.co.nz, or they could pick the phone up. But I think it'd be a bit costly if they were just be easier the other ways.
Absolutely, and we'll put all the links in the description below and make sure the audience can connect with you. Gail Page, I knew this was going to be absolutely phenomenal, and it has. Just listening to you, there's just such warmth, such wisdom, just such grace in how you speak, and just your understanding of life, and how you simplify just the whole principles of life. And I think there's a saying: if you understand something, you can explain it quite easily, and you certainly understand life, and you explain it to such perfection. It's an absolute joy just listening to you, and just hearing you speak and talking to us about these great life principles. And I just want to say thank you for sharing your wisdom with us today.
Thank you so much, Amos. Life's meant to be simple, not complicated.
Absolutely. Thank you.
It's been a pleasure.
If you want some amazing inspiration, check out the videos next to me, and I'll see you right there.